Hey, what is going on YouTube? Mike here, back with another video. So we recently had the opportunity to fly over to London and witness the launch of the new Nothing Phone 3. Now it's been a while since Nothing was in the flagship game, and yeah, we've gotten a first look and hands-on experience with the device. So has Nothing finally perfected its flagship smartphone formula? Well, let's take a look. Now, in terms of how it looks, the Nothing Phone 3's general design doesn't stray too much from its predecessors. It maintains the glossy, transparent rear panel that shows off some subtle design accents, and this has been one of the biggest differentiating factors with Nothing smartphones. One big change, though, is that Nothing has removed the glyph interface LED setup, so you're no longer getting the built-in lighting strips on the back of the device. And instead, we have a simple and more straightforward glyph matrix, which is kind of a tiny round display in the upper corner of the phone. Now, basically, it also functions as a notification hub, although on the back you have a capacitive button which you can long press or tap to shuffle between the many different functions of the glyph matrix. You can also use it as a mirror of sorts for the camera on the phone, although the limited display qualities kinda hinders this function a bit, so yeah. Like the Nothing Phone 3A series, it also comes with the Essential Space button, which is located on the side of the device, and it allows users to map specific functions, which can be easily accessed with a single press. Alright, so enough about design. The Nothing Phone 3 does come with a 6.67-inch AMOLED screen, and it does have some pretty slim bezels all around. It also gets incredibly bright with 4500 nits of peak brightness. And during the event, the phones were located under this really bright lighting setup in the center of the venue. And yeah, I didn't really have any trouble viewing the display under those lights. It also looks smooth with the 120Hz refresh rate, and yeah, it should be smooth enough for most general usage, including gaming. As for the software, you are getting Nothing OS on here, and yeah, it just breezes right through. Going through the user interface, it does feel generally smooth overall. And yeah, the Nothing Phone 3 feels like a solidly built device. Although you do get that funky looking camera design on the rear panel, I'm not the biggest fan out there of the design. I know it's been pretty divisive for most fans and general smartphone users, especially if you compare it to earlier Nothing Phone designs, which kinda had a more coherent style and look to them. Now powering the Nothing Phone 3 is Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 chipset, which is the same chip found in other devices, such as the recently launched Poco F7. Now unfortunately, we weren't able to test the phone's performance during the showroom event, but given the 8 Gen 4's relatively comparable scores to the 8 Gen 3 when you look at benchmarks, it's safe to say that the phone will be more than capable for most intensive apps and gaming situations. It should be mentioned though that in comparison, the Poco F7, for example, is a lot cheaper than the Nothing Phone 3, which we'll get to later. Looking further inside, you're also getting a 5150 mAh battery, which does support 65-watt charging speeds. Another consideration with this one is that the Indian variant of the Nothing Phone 3 comes with a larger 5500 mAh battery, although it does retain the 65-watt charging speeds. Alright, so going back to the somewhat weird looking camera setup, you do get a triple 50-megapixel setup on this phone. There's a 50-megapixel main camera, and the same resolution goes for the periscope telephoto lens as well as the ultra-wide lens. And video does max out at 4K resolution at 60 frames per second. And going over to the front, there's also a 50-megapixel sensor on here with the same 4K video recording support. Right, so going over to the price, the Phone 3 is being marketed as a flagship device, so it does come with a more expensive price tag. It starts at around $800 for the base model, which comes with 256 gigabytes of storage. So Nothing is really confident that the Phone 3 will be able to win over buyers, even with the existence of similarly spec'd devices all over the market. With that said though, the phone has just been released, so there's still a bit of waiting to be done in terms of how the device will perform in the long run. But yeah, so far though, it does manage to maintain the uniqueness of the Nothing brand. And yes, the camera layout will be a very divisive topic among fans, as well as the new glyph matrix, which is a considerable step away from the older notification system on the previous devices. So yeah, let me know your thoughts about the Nothing Phone 3 in the comments below. Do you like the design, or do you prefer the older Nothing phones? Don't forget to check out our other videos here on the channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.